Hey Swell, this is Karan Dev back here on the Think Tank Swellcast, bringing you the leading voices from the political system in India. India follows a federal structure of governance with a central government based in New Delhi, which is responsible for governing the whole country, as well as state governments, which look after the governance of each respective state. In certain states in India, regional parties have come to form the state government. Maharashtra is a state in the western part of India, and Mumbai, the capital city, houses the stock exchange among other leading business establishments and is the financial capital of the country. Maharashtra is India's richest state and is the country's leader according to several economic indicators. The government in Maharashtra currently consists of a coalition of three political parties: the Shiv Sena, the Nationalist Congress Party or NCP, and the Indian National Congress. Joining me today on the Think Tank Swellcast is Priyanka Chaturvedi, who is a prominent member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha or upper house and is a leading political figure from the state of Maharashtra. She is also the deputy leader and national spokesperson of the Shiv Sena, which is the political party at the helm of governance in the state today. She is a member of the Standing Committee on Commerce in Parliament, as well as the Consultative Committee at the Ministry of External Affairs. She's highly articulate, and I always end up learning a lot from watching her debate important policy issues on television and other panels. Priyanka ji, thank you so much for agreeing to speak to me on Swell. I'm very excited about our conversation and to hear your thoughts and insights on the questions which follow. I want to start this off by asking you about the performance of the government in Maharashtra at the moment. The current state government came into power in the year 2019. How do you think it has fared so far in its economic performance? And what are some of the landmark policies being conceptualized which you think will enhance the development of the state? Secondly, Priyanka ji, given some of the doubts cast by the BJP and opposition on the current Shiv Sena, Congress and NCP government, what do you believe are the benefits of coalition politics? India has come a long way in terms of women entering the political system and holding public office. But there clearly is a lot of work to be done in this regard. As a leading woman political leader, what do you make of the representation levels as well as women having a larger say in the political process? Shifting focus to the ongoing situation in Maharashtra, the state has witnessed the largest numbers of COVID cases in the country. And the pandemic created an urgent need for stronger collaboration between the central and state governments. Considering the scale of the crisis, how have the levels of cooperation been? And in a similar vein, a lot of observers have blamed the media for misrepresenting the stances of the government. Do you agree with the idea that the media reporting of the crisis did not do justice to on-the-ground realities? And finally, several states are going through elections at the moment, and many would say that the most tightly contested is in the state of West Bengal. As a leader from another regional party, what is your reading of this particular election?
Hello, Karan. This is Priyanka. I'm sorry I joined you guys late. I'm still figuring out this app. While I am quite social media savvy, but this is a new platform which I'm just trying to get a hang of. So, in response to your first question with regards to how the state government has fared in its economic performance so far, I would say when we formed the government in 2019, the first priority that the chief minister had was to put the state government on the right track in terms of leading the economy in the country. When the prime minister set an ambitious target of $5 trillion economy, we committed ourselves to creating a $1 trillion economy and be a part of the change and the commitment that came from the prime minister. Because we look at while we are part of a government in the state, which is minus BJP, and while the center has the Bharatiya Janata Party, the idea is to rise as Indians rise above our political differences. Unfortunately, we were struck by COVID, and we have seen most of lockdown happen during our tenure. But during even during the lockdown, we tried to ensure that our economic activities did not collapse, and we were ensuring that a large part of businesses could resume as soon as possible. And all efforts went into that. More important decisions that came in, I would say, that benefited the state, especially cities, is that we chose that our economy would be, we would consistently work as per the sustainable development goals where economy and environment will coexist, and we will bring that change. And if you would see in terms of our decision on RA Forest, you would see a decision on setting up the State Wildlife Board with people who understand wildlife, then adding on to our forest conservation ideas, ensuring that our tiger corridors are not impacted, are some of the important decisions we have taken. In terms of infrastructure building, there's a lot happening in the city of Mumbai. Then there is also the city of Nagpur, where we are creating corridors and highways to increase connectivity. So infrastructure building is also happening amidst COVID pandemic that we are grappling with. We have seen higher numbers. But these are things that I would say we have tried to ensure that while COVID has paralyzed a lot of our systems, we continue to economically contribute towards nation building. And also to add to some more points, because I guess we just get 5 minutes and that's the deadline, but there's a lot that has been happening in terms of making, I think Maharashtra was the first state in the country to give tourism and industry status, to cut down on licenses, to streamline processes better, to push for tourism, because Maharashtra has the mountains, it has the coast, it has all kinds of activities that can be looked into, whether it's a historical visit, whether it is a religious visit, whether it is to outdoor activity that we're looking at. Maharashtra has it all. So those are other things that we're looking into in terms of also supporting our small businesses. The Chief Minister also came forward with some policy changes. Then in terms of residents who wish to buy homes, we cut down on stamp duty charges for a limited period of time, which saw a positive response. Even the builders welcomed it. So we need to ensure that while we are looking at saving lives, we also end up encouraging better livelihoods and encouraging better lives for all. So those are other things that I would also like to add to the first question that you had put across to me. So now I'll move on to the second question. So I'm still getting the hang of it. So to all the listeners who will tune in, I guess they'll have to live with my, I would say, my experiment with the Swell app. So as far as coalition politics is concerned, there are two streams of thought, and I've always been of the belief that coalitions bring different voices and different stakeholders on board to formulate policies better, and that is democracy in action, where you see three different political parties, especially in Maharashtra. I think that is one model that the country is witnessing, where three different parties with three different ideas came together on one platform for the betterment of the state. And if you look at the Chief Minister's popularity, you would see that this has been a successful attempt. The other stream of thought is that there has to be complete majority to be able to implement changes. I quite disagree with that, simply because there are various ways of formulating policies, and the more stakeholder consultations you have, the more stakeholders who give you, who are also devil's advocate at times, help you frame policies better, which you do not have to keep revisiting because it did not give you the benefit, or did not give the people the benefit they saw that we imagine it would. So it helps in getting the various voices and coming on a same platform for a better agenda, for creating better systems, for creating better life, for creating better health infrastructure for the state. And Maharashtra is seeing that. So there will obviously be criticism, because Maharashtra happens to be one of the most important states. It sends the highest number of members of parliament after Uttar Pradesh. Yeah, it has assembly seats which are, I think, the second largest in the country again. So those are, and obviously it would hurt any other political party which is out of power to not govern a state which is politically important as well as financially very important for the center. So it does happen many times that there would be attacks on the government. There are some made up attacks on the government, and there are also fake narratives put out there to pull the government down. There are also attempts made to pull the government down. Uh, However, what is extremely important is that you continue to address the welfare of the people. This is where I would say the Chief Minister has been honest, upfront, and been speaking to the people directly, and that is why he continues to enjoy the popularity he does. But I definitely feel where central politics is concerned, national politics is concerned, majoritarian politics in a country which is as diverse as India, with several stakeholders, every state different from others, several languages spoken, several religions our country has given birth to, as well as that we practice in this country, as well as what the constitution says. It cannot have a majoritarian kind of politics, and every time we've had majoritarian politics, the nation has suffered. So while majority is good, but unchecked majority, where you totally weaken the opposition, gives parties which are in power chances to weaken the institutions, constitutional institutions. So sometimes we see people not, having questions about the way sometimes the Supreme Court is working. And I mean no contempt to the Supreme Court, but there are questions that arise of how decisions are made. There are questions of Election Commission of India. There are questions on how CBI is working, how ED is working. These are supposed to be independent institutions which strengthen the democracy. Unfortunately, those are the very institutions that come under attack when there is a majoritarian kind of politics that you see. That is why coalition is important. Coalition hears voices of all states that came together in the hope and belief that the federal structure would be important, and India is a union of the states, and the states would have equal amount of say in how national policies are framed. And what I'd also like to add to this coalition politics versus single party majority is also how policies are pushed through. In hindsight, when we talk about demonetization, it will tell you, and figures will tell you, the growth story of India will tell you that it slowed down the growth rate at which we were developing. Our so those are issues which are not thought through, but because you have the majority, you can push through. Those are things where democracy ultimately suffers. Democracy is something where we dissent, we debate, we discuss, we deliberate, and then we decide. However, when you give one political party a majority, sometimes, like often the quote goes, that absolute power corrupts, I'm sorry, I get the quote wrong every single time, so I'm not going to attempt that. But absolute power corrupts absolutely is what I was trying to say here. But so those are things which we need to keep in mind. So when I attend the Rajya Sabha, I believe that the point of view I'm putting across would only strengthen a policy, but it is pushed through without even giving a thought, and pushed across as by the party which is in power, that it is just politics of opposition, etc. That is not how it is. Everybody who enters the parliament is only trying to strengthen structures, but however, it's looked at differently. So that is when I think if you have uh, an opposition which is equally strong, plus a party in power which is also strong, that keeps the balance of democracy alive, and ability to be able to contribute to a stronger system. Now to the third question, which is the closest to my heart also at times, is about representation of women in politics. So we hear a lot of political parties saying that, yes, we need to have more women in politics. And we keep talking about the 33% reservation. I remember on March 8th, where I think I took the country by surprise, where I said, we've been talking about 33% reservation for past 24 years. It is time that if we are 50% of the population, that 50% of the seats should be reserved for us. Many people even talk about how quota system does not help, but I beg to differ. Quota system across the world has helped more women get into political spaces, to smash patriarchy, especially a country like India, which is very patriarchal in nature. It becomes imperative to have more women voices, to have a differing point of view, to have a perspective coming from the 50% of the population. And it always is a given that when a woman is on the power table, she will look at every issue with more empathy, with more, I would say, inclusivity, and uh, and brings a different dimension to how governance is done. And you would see post-COVID, whichever countries have done well in terms of getting over the COVID, have been countries which are governed by women. So you cannot keep women out of these systems. You've created those barriers. It's time to smash those barriers. Women do face a lot of flack from political opponents. Sometimes it's on personal in nature. Sometimes it's about character assassination. Sometimes you make women feel that they're not competent enough to be able to contribute effectively. All those are systems and society that we have built and women consciously or unconsciously have grown up with. So it is time to unshackle our thoughts and beliefs that women do not know enough, cannot do enough, are not impactful enough, or won't be able to handle power, or will not be able to be effectively provide effective governance. And there's a dichotomy in our nation. Our nation did give the first prime minister amongst the fewer nations which had a woman prime minister at the helm. We've had a woman president, we've had a woman speaker, we've had women chief ministers, but unfortunately has not percolated down to women at large. So we need to help, and most importantly, women need to help other women. We need to create stronger networks. We have to have a collective voice, an impactful voice, which can ask for changes. So those are things which I think as a nation we need to look at. But even if we look at globally, women are making an impact, but in terms of gender gap, in terms of pay gap, there exists a challenge, there exists a gap which needs to be addressed. The second problem is about how women can make their mark and keep. And the most important part, I think, is about women's safety and security too, which because we are such a patriarchal country in nature, it becomes. It is a given that women's choices will be made by the male of the house or the head of the house, who's usually a male. That also are things that we are changing. More women in positions of power on the power table in political parties is also something that needs to be addressed. Lots of political parties talk about women representation, but unfortunately, most of the national parties do not have enough women leaders at the top of the table who can decide who's contesting on a ticket, who can decide the decisions in terms of coalitions or alliance partners, etc. So it's good to pay lip service, but lip service is exposed, sounds hypocritical when you do not practice it in action. As far as my party is concerned, it's regional in nature. Of course, it has been male dominated, but we are also grooming leaders at local government level. We have a lot of women leaders who are above 50% of the quota that was reserved at local governance level. So we have more than 50% representation. We are now grooming them to take on the higher mantle, which is assembly, then move them forward to looking at the parliament. So those are things which we are training them, and we will hope to have more women representation even from our party. And I've seen more regional parties are giving women a quota system within their political system to be able to contest. TMC has done that, BJD is doing that, and I'd hope even national parties would consider this. Now to question number 4, how have the levels of cooperation been between the center and state? I would say it has been sometimes weak, sometimes strong, sometimes not applicable, because post 2019, of course, we saw a very when we were forming a government, we saw a side of the central government, or rather a political party that is in power in the center, which tried to thwart all constitutional norms, which tried to undermine the constitutional framework for forming governments. We saw, unfortunately, how the governor was used to push in a political party to be able to form a government at night, in the middle of the night. The president ends up giving a nod. Unfortunately, came across as a rubber stamp president. That was challenged in the court, and obviously we did form a government despite seeing this kind of politics being played. However, we were struck by COVID. Epidemic Act was put into place, and as per Epidemic Act, health, which is a state subject, was no longer state subject for that particular period when Epidemic Act is in place, and central government was monitoring all of it. In terms of support, our chief minister was very clear that we are fighting a pandemic and it is not about our politics. We have to rise above it. But we have seen instances where the state was sidelined in terms of getting help. But like our chief minister says, it's not the time to speak about it. But whether it was with N95 masks, whether it was with ventilators, whether it is about the vaccine campaign, vaccination drive that is happening across the state, which got into an unfortunate politics of us versus them. Those have been instances in the past, but we would not talk about it much simply because at this time, pandemic, getting over the pandemic is more important. But we would hope that any central government, despite the numbers it enjoys, the support it enjoys of the people, would also keep in mind that India, like I said earlier too, we are a union of states where a commitment was made when the constitution came about that the federal structure would be respected at any cost. We cannot go back in history and continue to say, oh, look, which party did this earlier, which party started reducing the value of the federal structure or the institutions or the institutional norms or the constitutional norms. If you came with a promise of being a party with a difference, then you have to reassure the people of the country that every state would be respected, every state's point of view would be respected. Once we have that clear, then we'll probably see more coordination. And nowhere in the world, which I continue to maintain, nowhere in the world would you see us versus them scenario created or state getting into a political fight with another state being created, which we saw during the pandemic, where some states were pulled down at every point of time, while other states were allowed to let go, were given a leeway. So there cannot be space for this. We must understand that if people at the center have chosen you to go to the center, it is the people of the state who have chosen this political party to be in power at the state with that confidence that whatever promises were made would be fulfilled by them. And I think that is the spirit which needs to be remembered. To your fifth question, what is your reading of the ongoing elections in West Bengal? I think West Bengal elections have been fraught with violence, have been, again, we've been seeing how some constitutional norms have been bypassed, how the might of wealth and pure power, majoritarian power, and brute force has managed to give advantage to those who hold these institutions, which are supposedly independent at the center. And in terms of how it's faring, I will not be able to, I'm not a cephalologist to know where the election is heading, but very clearly people of the state do have a huge amount of respect for their chief minister, and when she was attacked, you saw the entire state up in arms against this kind of hooliganism. Hopefully, the democracy will prevail, and the beauty of India's democracy, the participative democracy, is that there can be multiple political parties and various regional parties which live for the aspirations and work towards the aspirations and fulfilling the aspirations of the state they come from and they began from, and they'll take it to higher, I would say, higher planes, a higher ambition target for the state. So having said that, I'm hopeful that democracy above all survives, our constitutional stays supreme, and political party which enjoys the confidence of the people, the election happening in a free and fair manner, campaigning happening in a free and fair manner, whoever is going against the norms is pulled up equally from all sides by the election commission. And we see the outcomes based on what the people of the state want, rather than what a particular political party which enjoys a huge amount of wealth as well as power does not overrule what the people of the state want. And democracy needs to prevail.
Well, on that note, I'd like to firstly apologize for the initial issues you faced with regard to getting on to the interview. But once you get used to it, Swell is a truly great platform to communicate authentically, and our conversation today was a real embodiment of that. There are so many more questions which come to mind, and many more conversations to be had on the issues which you've elaborated on. And I think you've given our audience some very important insights about the state of Maharashtra and politics more generally. Priyanka ji, I want to thank you again for taking the time out to join me this evening on Swell. This is a platform, as I said, dedicated to authentic interactions such as this. I hope we get the chance to hear you again on the Think Tank Swellcast very soon. We're going to be doing a lot of similar interactions, and I hope you join us for them. On behalf of everyone on Swell, I'd like to thank you again and have a wonderful weekend.
So, Karan, thank you so much for inviting me on this app to have a conversation, audio conversations, which I'm so not used to because I'm such a TV person. That This has come as a very pleasant surprise. And let me also tell you, I tried to get on Clubhouse. I did have a couple of conversations. It wasn't as fun as this simply because there's no one to interrupt me and I can continue to talk uninterrupted. So it was a lovely conversation, and I hope through your questions I have managed to answer lots that is happening in India. And ultimately, as Indians, we all love our nation a lot, and we only want the best for not just our nation, for the people living in this nation who love it just as passionately as we do. And despite and in spite of political differences, we can come forward and make a stronger India, build a stronger India, only if we do not reduce ourselves to politics at play. And that, I think, should be a lesson for across political parties and across political systems and people at large. And to all the people who have tuned in and are listening to this, I just say one thing, that democracy is about listening to all voices and not shutting them up. The minute you respect the voice and you learn to listen with all commitment to what is being said, you would be able to gain another perspective to an issue. Every time I pick up a book, I do pick up books and I do read a lot. And I do also read point of view coming from across the political divide, because that helps you bring context to your political narrative. It helps bring context to your political discussions. And most importantly, it just adds value to how you contribute as a citizen, and as well as choose on the basis of wisdom that you have acquired by reading all sides. I will not push one book against the other or one person against the other. I would leave it to the citizens to read, to gain the knowledge, to listen closely, and that is when you'll be able to formulate an opinion which is well informed. Most important.
Hi, Priyanka. This is Taylor. I'm recording all the way from California, and I just wanted to say I really enjoyed listening to this conversation that you had with Karan. I love history and I love politics, and I try to do my best to learn as much as I can about the way that different countries operate globally. And I just had to say I thought that your conversation here was incredibly insightful and provided me with a lot to really think about. And so thank you so much for your time.
Although I did post a conclusion, and in addition to what Taylor said, I think that despite being a TV personality, you've made the transition to audio seamlessly. And we're all about hearing people at their core here at Swell without the interruptions or noise. And I think you've also summarized the essence of democracy very eloquently. It is a conversation at the end of the day, and the more we communicate, the healthier we become as a country. As I mentioned in my previous Swell, we're looking to have a wide range of these types of interactions and conversations. And I know I speak for everyone when I say that we're really looking forward to your Swellcast, Priyanka ji, and I hope we see you back here very soon. Thanks again.
Priyanka, it's so wonderful to hear your philosophy, your voice, your literal voice. And I believe a strong India is a strong world, in the sense that when we define strength the way you do, which is the freedom of thinking and voices inspired by literature and culture, and the connection between history, the past, the present, the future, it creates a strong culture, and that strong culture creates a strong country, as you say. and then our world is stronger. So I'm just inspired by your conviction and your courage and your warmth, which is so needed because we're all human beings. We want to feel invited into the process. And I look forward to hearing you more here on Swell. And just now that I know who you are, sitting here in Los Angeles, I'm excited to follow the work you do and just appreciate that you are amidst us, talking with us, leading us, inspiring us. And it fills me with great hope. So thanks so much.
प्रियंका जी, आपका स्वर पे आने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. I really enjoyed your conversation. And in particular, what you said in closing, that democracy is about listening to all voices and not shutting them up. And that when you really learn to listen, you are able to get different perspectives. That message is very near and dear to all of us at Swell, since it is one of the founding and guiding principles of our platform. So thank you again for sharing your voice and your perspectives on Swell. And we hope to talk to you again soon.